third podcast for the REACH project. My name is Vesa Kroci. I'm a project manager and research assistant at KCSS. The podcast is part of the REACH project, and the REACH project is short for Reinventing Engagement through Affirmative Citizen Consultations. And it is a European initiative aimed to strengthen citizen participation in shaping policies related to the environment, EU, and the rule of law. The project brings together diverse communities through consultation events to identify potential trade-offs and synergies between these interconnected topics. This project is also funded by the European Education and Culture Executive Agency under the CERF program, supporting initiatives that promote the EU values and citizen engagement. Together with me are Vesa, Shatri, and Denora, which were part of the National Consultation event, And if you could just give us a brief introduction about yourselves. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denora Gashi. I'm currently an intern at the Kosovo Center for Security Studies and soon to be pursuing a master's in conflict studies.
I'm Vesa Kroci. I'm a security studies student.
Thank you again for being part of this podcast. I'm going to start with the first question. How would you evaluate the overall structure of the National Consultation event, which was held on May 22nd?
I can start.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say that the overall structure, first of all, as in my perspective, as someone that also took part in kind of hosting it, if you will, or I would say that overall it was remarkably well received. The KCSS design to bring together a diverse group, so like youth, academics, civil society, and the institutional experts. It definitely suggested, in a sense, a strong commitment to inclusivity. And the fact that it built upon prior local consultations and integrating grassroots insights, if you will, with national level strategic discussions, it definitely enhanced its robustness and the potential impact, I would say.
Lisa, what about you?
For me, the structure was balanced between plenary session and group work. So this helped allow the natural flow of discussion from the presentation of findings to formulation of concrete recommendations. So it was well balanced.
So what do you think about the presentation of the findings from the local consultations? What are your thoughts about that? Did they accurately reflect on the citizens' concerns?
I can go. Yeah. I would say, in my opinion and my perspective, I think the findings from the local consultations were, first of all, absolutely crucial. I think for them to genuinely reflect citizens' concerns, the initial methodology for collecting those inputs had to be truly representative. And assuming that, essentially that the groundwork for those local efforts was it was really well executed, I would say. And then integrating those findings into the national discussions there was a vital step to ensure that the debate remained grounded in the realities and aspirations of the ordinary citizens.
Mm-hmm.
The presentation was comprehensive and accurately reflected the main concerns of citizens, such as lack of trust in the justice system, environmental challenges, and the slow EU integration process. There was a clear effort to incorporate local sensitivity into a national narrative.
Mm-hmm. How do you think the thematic group division, which was rule of law, EU integration, and environment, how did they work in your opinion? And was this methodology effective in encouraging productive discussions? I mean, we've had other consultations, before this we had 2 others, and they really valued the group divisions, the group work that we did. So do you think that this methodology was effective for these group discussions?
I would say that the thematic grouping was fairly effective, just because those 3 areas are not just relevant, but intrinsically they are linked to Kosovo's strategic future. And so with implementing that, that structure allowed for more focused and I'd say more specialized discussions, which is key to moving beyond generalities and just generating more concrete and I would say like more actionable recommendations. And from what I observed, I think it was pretty helpful, especially when we had later on feedback discussions.
Vesa?
For me, the thematic division worked very well, allowing the participant to focus on topics that they were interested and experienced in.
So, I mean, you were part of the consultation. During the group work, what do you consider were the most important moments or those meaningful contributions? Because you were able to observe, I mean, because you were present. So, what do you think was the most memorable thing from these contributions?
I personally didn't take part in the group discussions, but I would say just from observing, I think some of the most significant contributions were those where the ideas and recommendations were from the local constellations, and they were like truly transformed into sort of like, well, attempted to transform into essentially concrete proposals for future policies. I think there were definitely some great sort of like breakthroughs where the diverse expertise in the room from the youth enthusiasm and academic rigor and also the institutional pragmatism, they truly like converged to offer innovative, I'd say also practical solutions as well to Kosovo's challenges from what I gathered, just observing everything.
The important moments were when people shared real-life example and different views, especially the young people. So this helped with everything.
Okay. Were there any challenges during these group discussions?
I think this is more Vesa's.
Yes, Vesa, if you can.
I didn't notice any difficulties.
So everyone basically got along well, everything was really good structured, and the participants were able to express their opinions. Do you think, okay. How would you assess the role of the facilitators in guiding the discussions and helping to reach concrete recommendations? Do you think they were effective, and what do you think about this?
From my point of view, just from witnessing it, I think they were pretty good. Their role was absolutely crucial. And it goes beyond just their simple moderation. They definitely synthesized the complex ideas and they ensured that all the voices were heard because there were quite a few participants, I think more than we had planned, which we're obviously grateful for. And most importantly, I think they helped to distill those diverse insights into concrete, actionable recommendations. So I think the quality of the final recommendations and the overall flow of the event largely did depend on the effectiveness of the facilitation, in which I think they did do a good job. So that's my takeaway.
I think they led the discussion professionally, created an inclusive atmosphere, and helped translate ideas into clear and actionable recommendations.
And how do you guys think that they made this flow really well? What was like the method, the approach? Denora mentioned, for example, that all the voices were being heard, and could you maybe add something else for the facilitators? Yeah, sure.
In my case, I just remember there was a lot of mediation going on. It was just like the very, I guess, smallest stuff, but those small things really do play a huge role. I remember just to kind of like drop names, we had Adelina, we had Dani, they were going around, handing over the microphones, just making sure that everyone's voice was heard. Again, because ideas were nonstop being thrown around when the group work was taking place. So obviously it is sometimes hard to essentially silence out every single voice in the room when someone's talking, but overall everyone did have the chance to speak, whoever wanted to. And they did enforce people to listen. And I think that was a really great way just because they definitely took into consideration, you know, we were there to have an important discussion and to share ideas. And I think just based off as well, when the participants were communicating, it was clear that they also heard the points that were being made, which shows essentially that the facilitators were, you know, successful in their mediation of the conversations.
Vesa, if you don't have anything to add.
No.
I agree with you, Denora. I think it's also very important. And the facilitators carry most of their weight on their shoulders. I mean, it's difficult to engage with all of those people and making sure that they're providing them comfortable environment where
Yeah.
everyone can share their opinions. And I'm glad that that's how it went. And yeah. Um, so in your opinion, were the recommendations that emerged from the group's representative, are they applicable in the context of Kosovo?
I would say that given the active participation of institutional experts that we had there, there's a strong indication that the applicability of these recommendations within Kosovo's specific context was a primary concern, and that these experts did provide vital knowledge of our existing legal framework, obviously, as well as like institutional capabilities, financial realities, and just helping to ensure that the proposals were not just desirables, but also had genuine, feasible, and were also implementable as well.
For me, the recommendations were realistic and aligned with the current challenges and capacities in Kosovo. They provided a solid foundation for national level policies and EU level advocacy.
What personal impact did participating in this session have on you? What would you think?
I'm just curious. I'm not curious, but I'm quite, because I was there to witness it. It was quite interesting for me, and so witnessing the plenary and especially the consensus building session, for me after that was really impactful actually, because it's where you get to truly like gauge the collective will, and seeing
exactly.
seeing how the recommendations were presented and how like they were prioritized or even divided, and level of that was achieved around them. I think it definitely offers a critical insight into the political buy-in and the actual potential for these proposals to move forward. It's where the theory of like constellation meets like the practical reality of collective decision making, I would say.
Great.
It was an inspiring experience because we were being part of the process that could influence policy decisions and gave us a sense of responsibility and empowerment.
Do you believe that the process of selecting the 10 recommendations was fair and reflective of what the participants shared? Yeah. Denora, we can't hear you.
Okay, I can do first.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe I'm always like jumping in. Let me let Shatri have
No worries. I mean, this is a podcast. Feel free to jump in. No worries.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll just shoot. I do think that the fact that participants themselves selected these recommendations through like a consensus building session points at a democratic and participatory process. I think that fairness and representativeness hinge on transparency, and where the criteria for selection was clear. I would say that every group's hard work was given in and was, I would say, taken into consideration, and also based on KCS's statement that it's committed to citizen participation. I think the intention was certainly to make this final selection process as fair and as representative as possible. Sorry, I kind of like got my thoughts there, but I think that's the key takeaway.
Great, thank you.
The process was transparent and participants were involved in decision making. However, it would be beneficial for transparency if all the recommendations were published.
Yeah, I think so too, actually, yeah.
Yes, there will be a document coming, so no worries. I mean, that's why these events are being held, so that we can gain, insight from citizens from different fields, and then we can maybe come to a understanding and make some change. So, considering the participation of the citizens, we had experts, institutional representatives. Do you think that there was a good balance between different voices? Because we had people, I mean, citizens from different fields, and do you think there was a good balance?
Yeah. I think, well, yes, I believe that there was a very good balance actually, just because of the explicit inclusion of youth, like you were saying, and academics, and just civil society representatives, and even institutional experts actually demonstrates a conscious effort to
Yeah,
achieve like a diverse and inclusive representation. And because we have, so like there was each group essentially brings a unique, sorry, and vital perspective. I think citizens bring like lived-in experiences. Experts like they'll
exactly.
provide, yeah, and they provide um, like like technical depth. And institutional representatives like they will offer their insights into like government capacities. So I think like this balance is crucial for ensuring that recommendations are like well-rounded and that there's no like single viewpoint that dominates discourse.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a good balance. The equal representation of different age groups, genders, and professional backgrounds enriched the discussion and contributed to more inclusive outcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Vesa. Since both of you have, I mean, are studying political studies, this is more of an academic question. Do you believe that the recommendations from this event have the potential to influence policy at the national or European level?
Okay, so I think I definitely think so. I just think that the very nature of this being a national consultation, that was organized by a reputable entity like KCSS, um, and with direct funding from the European EU itself, I think lends significant credibility and weight to these recommendations. Nationally, their focus on concrete policy proposals and the involvement of institutional experts makes them highly relevant, I'd say, for government action. And at European
Exactly.
level, yeah, and at like European level, particularly emphasis on EU integration, I think these recommendations are clearly intended to inform Kosovo's reform agenda and alignment with EU standards. So I think that gives them like genuine potential for
Mm-hmm.
broad influence. So
So
that's,
there's hope.
yeah, hoping there's hope.
Okay.
Uh,
Vesa?
yes, especially if they are supported by institutional actors and civil society. I think that the presentation in like Brussels is a strong opportunity to promote the priorities of Kosovar citizens in the European level.
That's why I think it's also important that this national consultation event had also these different actors, such as institutional experts, because I think they can make also a change. They have the voice to make these changes and to maybe integrate these policies. Um,
I agree.
if there were to be a next phase of this project, how would you suggest improving the consultation processes? Maybe like an idea.
Um, just as someone that had like the chance and like the pleasure to kind of have a very slight hand in this project, I'd suggest potentially just enhancing, because we already have it, but just enhancing transparency and accountability regarding the implementation of these recommendations. So again, like you said, we're going to do this anyway, but yeah, just to like put the idea out there, like creating
Mm-hmm.
a publicly accessible dashboard or like regular reports tracking the process, sorry, not the process, but the progress of each of the 10 recommendations and like detailing responsible institutions, actions taken, and like any challenges that were encountered that we discussed earlier as well. I think that would be significant in terms of boosting public trust.
Mm-hmm.
As well as ongoing engagement, and also maybe perhaps like an even like broader digital outreach to involve citizens who citizens that weren't able to attend in person,
Mm-hmm.
and ensuring essentially like even like wider inclusivity.
Mm-hmm. So basically boosting this
Yeah,
more, not just stopping like we have the
yeah,
recommendations, policies, nothing, just
yeah,
not just on paper, but actually
yeah,
taking actions and making sure that, yeah,
yeah,
I
making it more
definitely agree.
applicable.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I would say. Just
Mm-hmm.
enhancing that though, because I think we definitely did take that effort already.
Mm-hmm. Vesa?
I think to include more people from smaller communities and also use online platforms so many people can join.
Why do you think we should include maybe citizens from uh maybe rural areas or from like smaller cities? Why do you think that would be important, or what would change? I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just asking.
Because it would be more helpful to make all voices heard and all their needs, and it will be easy if we do that with online platforms, so many people can join from different regions.
Yeah, because like I said earlier as well, just to piggyback off of that, again, I think it's a good suggestion. And like even Vesa Kroci said earlier, like if we have more people, then there won't be like a single dominating viewpoint or like single dominating voice. You know, you'll hear
a bit of everything. I mean, I agree with you, Ves. It's really important to include people from other cities. I mean, this could be one of our recommendations as well, which we could add and maybe uh try for further consultations if we have more, to include more citizens from other different regions, because it's important to hear their voices as well, and maybe what they think about it. They can also be informed more about EU and stuff. So I truly believe that it's a great idea. Was there any moment during the day that stood out to you, or that you would highlight more significant? Something that maybe stood out during the consultation?
For me, I would say something that was really impactful was likely, I would say, would be during the consensus building session. Like for me, especially because I'm part of the diaspora, I don't live in Kosovo. So just having the chance to witness such a diverse group, potentially like with initial differing views, and I'm pretty sure they did, just come together to agree on like a set of common and like actionable priorities across like critical issues, again, like the rule of law, EU integration, and so on. I think that was really powerful, a really powerful demonstration for the potential, demonstration of like potential for the genuine dialogue and collaborative progress in Kosovo. So for me, that was something that was definitely truly memorable and a great takeaway.
For me, like people with different opinions worked together and agreed on recommendations, so that was impressive.
I think it's great because you hear it, as I said before, firsthand from the citizens, because we always hear from like experts and stuff. So it's really important to hear also the citizens. I mean, from different fields as well. Like we had the youth, we had everyone from different fields. So it's really important. How do you see the role of such consultations in strengthening democracy and civic participation in Kosovo? How do you think these consultations could maybe impact civic participation and democracy in Kosovo?
I think that these consultations, I think, are like absolutely fundamental in strengthening democracy and citizen participation in Kosovo. Like you were saying, how like you just stressed how important it is, and I obviously, of course, 100% agree. They like provide a legitimate structured channel for like direct engagement between citizens, experts, and institutions. And they move beyond mere tokenism, and like they aim for concrete policy proposals, which is significantly enhances the legitimacy of governance, I think. And by building like trust and demonstrating that public input truly matters, they actually foster a more like informed and, I'd say, engaged, as well as like a resilient democratic society. Yeah.
You also mentioned transparency before, and I think that's also really important because we have to highlight like Kosovo as a country. We have these issues. I mean, for EU integration, rule of law. I mean, we've discussed this also in previous consultations, and I think it's really important to be transparent where we are as a country. Different perceptions from citizens, and I think also that was a really good point, and I would also add that in. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's a reoccurring theme. I've seen it as well. You guys do well in highlighting it.
Thank you.
I
Vesa?
think consultations build a bridge between citizens and policymakers that promotes a culture of public dialogue. So this is very helpful for citizens.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Um, did you have, I mean, this is for Vesa. Did you have the opportunity to collaborate or engage in discussions with participants from maybe different cities or other fields? And how do you evaluate this exchange? Maybe also from what you saw from the group discussions.
The interaction was very valuable. Exchanging experience from different regions helped deepen our understanding on common issues and led to more inclusive solutions. So we had from the environment,
Mhm.
from the EU uh, part. So it was very helpful.
Mhm. Denora, you said that you were, I mean, present. Did you have a chance? I mean, we've said this before, but you had a chance to maybe observe how the participants exchanged and ideas with each other. And how do you evaluate this exchange?
Um, Honestly, I think it was
We
invaluable
can't
to
hear
say the
you.
least. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Because my
Denora?
can you hear
Yeah.
me? Okay, great. So I
Yes.
was just saying how it's definitely, I would say, like this interconnectedness was definitely like invaluable. Again, like I said earlier, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to participate, but definitely just observing everything, observing like national actors from various fields, like building on previous local constellations. I think that also implies like geographical diversity as well. And so kind of just having the chance to observe it. And it's like, like you were saying earlier, like just having with my kind of knowledge as well, I know that
Exactly.
it's vital, yeah, for national cohesion and a well-rounded policy approach, I'd say.
Amazing. Okay, so for the last question, sorry for taking your time, but I think this was very helpful. I mean, this discussion and your insights were amazing. If you were invited to contribute to an official document which summarizes the recommendations from the consultation, what message would you most emphasize?
Mm, I think, and my mind might change, my thoughts might change. They're
That's
forever
okay.
changing, I will say. But I'd say just like revisiting everything now with like Vesa Shatri and yourself and like kind of bringing back everything, I'd say that the core message I'd emphasize, at least for now, and I think it definitely still would remain as one of the core messages, is that this national constellation represents a vital democratic exercise for Kosovo. I think the
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
recommendations are forged through diverse input and consensus are not like just merely suggestions, but they're actually actionable imperatives for strengthening the rule of law, accelerating European integration, and even ensuring environmental sustainability. And so I think that their diligent and transparent implementation is paramount for building a resilient, um, not,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd say prosperous. Sorry, that's the word I was after. Prosperous
Prosperous,
and
yeah.
it sounded like I was saying posturous. That was not what I was after. And like basically just a truly citizen-centric Kosovo. I think that
Amazing.
takeaways and messages.
Thank you, Denora. Visa?
I would emphasize the importance of maintaining ongoing space for citizen participation and ensuring that recommendations are followed by concrete political actions, not just words on
Exactly.
paper.
As we said before, not just on paper, but we need actions, definitely.
For
Okay,
sure.
thank you both for being part of this podcast. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed it. And as you said, Denora, going through and just reminiscing, yeah, we can see now how big of an impact it has on
Yeah.
citizens. And hopefully this project continues. I would also like to remind our viewers to listen to this podcast and to go to mladirini.org, which is the website, which you can see articles published by people from different fields. You have so many articles there. It's super important, and you can learn more about the project there. Thank you so much again for being part of this podcast. See you
Thank you
again.
for your time. Bye bye.
Bye.